Crashbang Computing. Today we're looking at the Raspberry Pi. So what is a Raspberry Pi? A Raspberry Pi is a small credit card sized portable computer. It's quite cheap, costs about £25 in the UK, and you might need to buy a few extras as well, but quite cheap. And the idea behind it is that it's used by students, young people, to experiment with and to play with and to code on, but also to plug various bits of hardware into it, and really just to experiment with a view to learning all about computers. So the principle of not having everything hidden away under a case or behind a desktop computer means that it feels more tangible, more real, and you can do nearly everything that you can with a traditional computer. So we'll take a closer look at the actual Pi in a few moments, but another burning question for the trainee teacher is very much, do I want to use a Raspberry Pi in my classroom? So there's a lot of debate over this, and you'll get a different answer depending on who you speak to. And it very much depends on a number of things. It depends on your classroom setup. So if your computers are hidden away under desks, or you don't have access to the plugs or the USB ports, which very much is the case in some schools, then it's not going to be practical. You're physically not going to be able to plug your Pis into your monitors and keyboards in your classroom. Another factor is the length of your lessons. If your school runs 50-minute lessons and you don't have any double periods with a particular class, then it's going to be very difficult for you to get students to plug everything in and set it up, get anything productive done, and then reset the computers, plug them back in for your next lesson where you'll be using the computer in a traditional sense. So 50-minute lessons, very difficult to actually get any learning or any experimenting done. If you have the luxury of 3-hour lessons, on the other hand, then you might reconsider that. There's also cost. Not every school can go out and buy a Raspberry Pi for every pupil. So lots of things to consider. So although some teachers have managed to use Raspberry Pis to teach various parts of the curriculum, and indeed to use on some of the investigative controlled assessments, the majority of people tend to use them in after-school clubs or lunchtime clubs when it's more relaxed, the learning objectives are not so set in stone, and students are actually free to experiment, which, after all, is the overriding principle behind using the Raspberry Pi. So for this purpose, they're really, really good. Students get quite excited about handling them and plugging them in, and really just doing anything, trying anything they want and coming up with their own ideas. Okay, so let's take a closer look at an actual Pi. And so this is a Raspberry Pi. It's the Raspberry Pi 1, the first model. It's got 2 USB ports, Ethernet cable. You plug your mouse and keyboard in here. You can connect your video here, or headphone jack. You've got GPIO headers here, allow you attach inputs and outputs to play with. Your processor, your power cable goes in here. This one takes an SD card, the larger size, and you can compare this to this is a Raspberry Pi 2, the latest model. This is also in a shiny red case, which is why it looks considerably different, but without the case it looks quite similar to the old one. Key differences being this one takes a micro SD card. It's got 4 USB ports, which is much handier. So that's our introduction to the Raspberry Pi. If you'd like to know more about setting one up, take a look at our Setting Up a Raspberry Pi video. Or if you're looking for ideas about what kinds of exciting projects you can introduce with your students, have a look on the web. There's so many suggestions on raspberrypi.org or instructables.com. That's it for this introduction. Thank you for listening.